Stay seated during our speaker and help me enthusiastically welcome our speaker, Gabi.
I'm Gabi, and I am an alcoholic. And good to see all these familiar faces, people I know. Am I too close, too far? I can talk loud, so I'm good? Okay. So my sobriety date is August 31st, 1991, and I got sober 2 days before my 21st birthday. I couldn't imagine having gone on a day longer. I was very insane at that point. And, I was kind of, what I like to start with is what I'm dealing with today, that you would think after 32 years of sobriety, I wouldn't have to deal with anything anymore, that life would be perfect and well and wonderful. I had Bambi in the yard, the white picket fence, the whole shebang. And that's just not the case. I feel like, I feel like those things that I thought I had dealt with early on in sobriety, oh yeah, I'm not mad at them anymore. I'm good. I dealt with this. I made amends. Things came back over these last years and started coming up. And if you're doing this stuff, if you're doing this and you have a sponsor and you're coming to enough meetings, you're going to be seeing more and more of yourself and your character defects. And so it's still, I still have to work the steps around my crap, and I'd like to say I didn't have to do that, but I do. And so one of the things I've been working on is my judgment of others. Anyone ever got that problem? And that was a big character defect. Paul's the only one. That when I came in, I was judgmental of everyone. I mean, I sat here and I judged all of you, and I didn't want to be here. I didn't like it. I know some people do. But I was really angry, and I could judge people in my head. I was brilliant at it. And so it didn't just go away. And as I worked the steps, I thought I'd taken care of that, and then it started to come back. And I'm like, why am I so mad at people and upset and judging everyone? And so over these last years, I've been really looking at that. And I feel like I've come, anytime we have pain, our character defects ooze out of us, right? And then we get this mirror right in our face, and it just slaps us. And when we have pain, we do the steps, we listen to our sponsors, and we follow through, right? And do all this. And then there's another side to it. And I feel like I'm on that other side now, and I get more peace, and I get more freedom. And I'm not judging you, but I'm also not judging me so much, not as harsh. So I'm hoping this is the last of it, guys, and I'll be perfect from here on out. We'll see. Lauren will let me know, right? So, I always start with this because I do feel like I popped out of my mom, a total alcoholic. I feel like I popped out and I went, what the hell is this? Let me back in, because I'm not liking it. From day one, when anybody talks about me as a child, you were shy, Gabi, you were shy. I was extremely shy, and those of you who know me kind of find that hard to believe, I'm sure, because I'm not as shy anymore. But I am more of an introvert than I put out there. So, but I was extremely shy, and the word shy to me means full of absolute fear. I was so fearful. I was fearful of saying things that were going to look stupid. I was fearful I was going to have attention drawn to myself. I was just absolutely full of fear. I remember once not wanting to raise my hand, saying I had to go to the bathroom in school, and I almost peed my pants because I was so afraid to walk in front of people. That's how full of fear I was. I was uncomfortable in my own skin from day one. And, I had a hip problem, and so I wore braces up to my hips like Forrest Gump and got a lot of attention in that way, and I didn't like that, and I didn't do that for very long, but I remember, I remember that. I was tall. I was like a 175th percentile in height. And in kindergarten, you look at photos, I'm like feet above these kids, I felt like a freak. I just always felt like a freak, and rode the little yellow bus to school because I was extremely dyslexic, and all those things piled into one, and other problems. I won't go into all of it, but the minute I took a drink, I was 12 or 13. I took a drink and I fell in love with the stuff. I fell in love and I went, where have you been all my life? And I felt, it just gave me a freedom to, to flirt with guys, to crack a joke. Someone told me I was funny. I'm like, what? I'm funny? I never had that positive response because I was just always that kid who no one really knew, and so I fell in love with it, and I drank as much as I could, whenever I could, and I started having consequences really early on. By age 16, I was waking up in strange places next to strange men, not knowing what I had done the night before, and what city am I in? Am I in Sacramento? Am I in Woodland? Am I in Davis? I don't know. I don't know where I am. And being a blackout drinker, there's pros and cons, right? Blackout drinkers, you don't remember it all, you don't remember anything. And some of it, I'm glad I don't remember, but you have those next mornings where your friends call you up, hey, Gabi, how you doing? I go, I'm fine, why? And they go on to tell you, those people who love to tell you all the crap you did the night before. Oh my God. So, and then when you have your mom do that, and she calls you, oh, Gabi, how are you doing? It's pretty rough. I drank, I was that person that irritated everyone. I was that person, where'd Gabi go? Oh, I think she went off with Mark, or, what's she doing? And people would try and take care of me. And I was impossible to control. And I drank destructively. I was extremely suicidal. I do half-assed attempts all the time. And I was too afraid to go all the way through with it. But it was a constant thought. Depression, I was depressed, and a lot of us were, but I feel like I was the depressive type, and I hated myself, and so any opportunity I got to do whatever, I did drugs too. That's a part of my story, but here in Alcoholics Anonymous, I keep it to alcohol. But I did do anything anyone gave me, and I was kind of hoping that one of these guys I was hanging out with would just kill me because I can't do it myself, And I hung out with lower companions, We always like to say, oh yeah, we had lower companions, but I think most of us were the lower companions, weren't we? I sure as hell was. I remember being I must have been 18 then, and I remember hanging out at this house. It was that house, right? And I just hung out, and no one's working, nothing. I don't really even know how anything got paid, but I'm hanging out at this house, and a friend is there who didn't normally hang out there, and I can't remember why she was there, but I looked around the room and I go, look at all these bums. And she looked right at me and she goes, Gabi, you're exactly the same. And I went, oh, okay, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. No, but I knew she cared, she did care. And things just got worse. Got kicked out of high school, drank in a drive-in accident. I hit 2 parked cars. You got to be pretty drunk for that, right? 2 parked cars, totaled 2 parked cars, and thrown in the drunk tank, all of that. And I remember I felt like every time I drank, I did something shameful. would wake up the next day and just the shame, And I remember one time I woke up and I'm like, where the hell am I? Okay, I'm in Davis. Where's my car? I don't know where my car is. Anybody ever have that happen? You lost your car, right? And I had to call my dad to come help me. And here I am. I got pantyhose, mini skirt. I look like a whore, I mean, my pantyhose are all ripped and I'm just a mess. My dad coming to pick me up and the look he gave me, it was just like, I remember that look. And in times I would, throw up. I was just a maniac. And then, my sister's boyfriend, I was ready after throwing up. I'm ready to go. Let's go to the next party. The look he gave me, it was like, oh my God, aren't you tired yet, Gabi? Like, what are you doing? And for me, I was becoming so insane and justifying. I mean, my life, it was all about my family, my family. If you had a family like me, you'd drink too, If you moved around, went to 13 different schools, you'd drink too, right? I mean, it was just always about them and what they had done to me. If you had a boyfriend like that, you would drink too. It was always other people. And I never had really looked at myself. I knew I was a mess, but I never had really known to what degree I was selfish, dishonest, self-seeking. I just didn't have any sense of that whatsoever. And I remember, towards the end, I'll just say my last drunk, and then kind of move on. But my very last drunk, and I think it is important to remember the last bad drunk, because that was about 2 months before I actually got sober. And I went out with a friend. I guess he was a friend, and he told me, I tried AA a little bit, gone to some meetings, and he had told me, oh, I'll buy you some soda, we're going to go to a party. And I said, no, I want to drink, And boy, I drank. The next morning, I didn't know where my car was. I didn't know anything. I called him, and I came on over. He had my keys, and he showed me head to toe bruises I had given him the night before. I was violent, and that wasn't the first time I was violent. I was pissed. I had a lot of rage, and I was violent towards myself too. It was insanity, right? And I'm thinking they should just lock me away, And I was kind of hoping I'd get diagnosed with something so that, that would be an explanation for this. But they didn't, and I'm grateful for that now because, I showed up here. And I had come to AA, and I had left AA. I saw that word God, and I went, oh, it's a cult, right? They're going to make me go door to door and, and shave my head and pass out flyers at the airport, all of that. And I didn't grow up with any God. I grew up with 2 atheists, so, But to tell you the truth, I'm actually quite grateful for that now, because I think it helped me to find what I needed, right? But I woke up in Florida. I had moved to Florida, and I had gone through a recovery home in California, and the woman who ran that recovery home was a real strong AA member. And I called her, and I said, Jean, I'm crying. I don't have a dime to my name. I don't know what to do. And she said, Gabi, don't worry. Just come back out to California. We got a bed for you. Don't worry. And I went through, I got back out there. But for some reason, when she said that, I knew everything was going to be okay. And I can't explain it. Before, when I had gone to AA, I had a sponsor even, poor woman, and she, don't call me drunk, and I call her drunk. Oh, don't call me drunk. Oh, I mean, because you don't remember, right? Black out, God. Just I go to meetings drunk, and none of that worked really well for me, but but I knew where to go, right? I knew where to go to when I was done, and I was done. And I went through that recovery home again, and they reintroduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous in a whole nother light. And for some reason at that point, I was willing to get the sponsor, and I was willing to do a certain amount. And, what I remember at the beginning was the energy I had. I had no idea I could have this energy. I mean, when you're drinking all the time, you just want to sleep. And when you can't drink, you're thinking of drinking, and the energy just goes. And I had this energy, and I was willing to do so much. I got the sponsor. I was willing to work the steps, all of that, but willing to go to any lengths. I don't know. I still did it my way for some years. Anybody else do that their way? It doesn't work so well, but I did things my way for a little while. And but what I remember is I was really young. And at that time, we get a lot of young people here. This is a weird town because I don't think that's the case everywhere. But in the town I got sober in, I was like the young person in Woodland, and we had some other people in the county. We'd have one young people's meeting. There was 12 people, and our county was about the size of Yavapai County. So, we'd get together. But I remember the old men in the program, in the meeting I went to, and they just totally embraced me. And they didn't pick up on me because I did not need that. They embraced me. They would sit with me after the meeting and let me throw up on them, whatever I needed to throw up on them about. And David D., he would sit by the door. So after the meeting, he would go and sit in the chair by the door. He'd just hang out there. If someone needed to talk, we'd sit down and talk to him. And Don Bertelson, he used to say, "You got to know my last name because how are you going to find me in the phone book?" I don't even know if anyone opens a phone book anymore. But Don Bertelson, and these men are passed away, but he would share a story. He used to go into the Knights Landing supermarket. I think it was Knights Landing supermarket on his horse. So, and he'd share that story all the time, and I grew to love these men. They did big book studies, and they went through and told me definitions of this word. That doesn't happen as much anymore, and I think we need that because had I not had that, I don't know if I would have understood the big book. I don't know if I would have really known what they meant. And so I was grateful to have a lot of those big book studies. And I just kind of ran around. I remember there was a point where I'm dating all these guys. This was early too. I was like in my first 3 months, and I'm dating all these guys. And this woman in the program, same woman who ran the recovery home, she said, "Gabi, you're effing up." And she said the full word. I try not to cuss up here, even though I say crap. I don't know. Is that a cuss word? I don't know. I always, no. Okay, I got to know. And she said, "You're effing up." And I immediately started crying. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. When we get here, we think things are going to be different. We think everything's going to be different because I'm sober now. So now I'm all that in a bag of chips, And I'll tell you, with each guy I dated, those experiences, I learned something. I learned something from that. And I realized it was all the same. That I still was the same person, but I wasn't blacking out. Okay, maybe those things like running off with someone, in a one-night stand or whatever, that all stopped. But the feelings were the same. My judgment was still there. My anger was still there. All of that, And you guys really, the steps, and then finding a higher power that helped me to learn as I went. I'd learn with each one. And then by the time I met my husband, I was 3.5 years sober, and I don't think he would have liked me any day sooner, to be honest, and he's a normie, and I'm grateful for that because I don't have to deal with his crap. He just has to deal with mine. He's a pretty good guy. I'm really fortunate. I can't believe, with all the bad relationships I had, but right before I met him, I had stopped going to meetings. I kind of was doing whatever I wanted. And I feel like that's when I hit my bottom in sobriety. And at that point, I was hanging out with an ex-boyfriend who had just gotten out of prison for armed robbery. So, who does that but a crazy woman, right? So I asked this woman to sponsor me, and she scared me. This woman scared me, and she scared me up until right till the end of her sponsoring me. She scared me, but I love her. I'll say that. And I told her I hadn't been going to a lot of meetings and what I've been doing. I've been going to doing real sporadic things. I hadn't been giving back. That was a piece I had been missing. And she said, well, how selfish of you. And I looked at her like, how dare you, say that to me. She goes, how selfish. You came and you took and you took and you didn't give anything back. And I'm like, oh. And I knew she was right? I mean, you can't argue that because that was the truth. And I feel like I had those people in my life throughout my sobriety who would call me on my crap, They cared more about me than they did my feelings. And I'm grateful because that's what I needed. I needed someone to say, I was selfish of you. I think you owe them an amends. You said this, you shouldn't have said that. I needed that because I didn't know how to be. I feel like, we ran the house when we were younger. We did whatever, whenever, with whoever we wanted for a long time. And so to have someone saying things to me like that, I didn't like it, but I did it. For some weird reason, I did it, Getting the God thing for me was really tough. It was really tough, but I hit that bottom. You get to that place of desperation where that I'm grateful for that I got to, where a drink didn't look good anymore, where I wanted to learn another life. And they said, you got to find some kind of higher power. I don't care what that is. And they told me, they said, go, if you're interested in this kind of spirituality, go to the library, get a book, read up on it. And if you're interested in that one, go, look into it. And I'm grateful for that. No one told me I had to do it this way or I had to do it that way. It was a discovery that I came up with for myself. And I could buy into, right? And now I've developed this incredible higher power that I can't imagine not having. It's a relationship. And so I've been taught that, this relationship, just like any relationship, you have to nurture it. And so it's been real slow. I couldn't even say the word God for 10 years in the program. That's how anti-God I was. So it was tough for me, right? But I eventually discovered what I needed. And I'll tell you, now I can get to that place, that silence that they talk about. I can't always get there because if I got something going on, a little chatter, and I'm not willing to really, let it go to God or whatever, but I can get to that silence now. That we are capable of that. And I think sometimes we downplay what we are actually capable of. If I can do it, you can do it. There's no reason you can't. It's just about us learning how to clean our house, right? I mean, I had to repair the damage done. I had to look at my character defects. I had to be willing to do things I didn't want to do. And as a result, I have more peace today than I would have. I couldn't even imagine it. When I was first sober, I used to say this, I haven't said it in a while, but I didn't know what happiness was at all. I had no idea what happiness was. I knew what misery was, but I didn't know what happiness or love was. I didn't know what that. I knew what lust was, but I didn't know what love was. And I used to say, I always thought happiness was a mix of Scarface, what's her name, Michelle Pfeiffer, sitting in the hot tub with all her drugs and her alcohol, and then Donna Reed, Miss Perfect, Donna Reed, and some of you might not be old enough to know who Donna Reed is. She was the perfect mom in, every way, and I had no idea what it meant, but I love that place in the book where it talks about matching calamity with serenity, that we can walk through something really hard, because it will happen to all of us here, a death, a divorce, whatever. It will have health issues. It will happen to all of us at some point. So how are we going to have that unshakable foundation, like it talks about in the book, that unshakable foundation, so that we're okay? It might be hard. We might be crying every day to our sponsor or whatever, but that we have the tools to walk through it, right? And with our heads held high and with some dignity and grace, like they talk about. And so that's what I've been taught, right? And I might not all do it all with dignity and grace, but when the grace kind of goes to the side, that's when I learn something. It's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of into self here. I gotta like take a look, and I feel like Alcoholics Anonymous is what has helped me have a happy marriage. It's helped me. I feel like that's the gift. It's like that we have the ability to have a healthy relationship. We have the ability to shut our frickin' mouths. We have the ability to let God speak for us and communicate with people. I remember early sobriety, there was this guy who would flirt with me. This was before I met my husband and stuff, but he would flirt with me in kind of a sleazy way, and it made me really uncomfortable, and I didn't know what to do. And so I would just go, oh, stop, bat my eyelashes, because I knew how to flirt, that's what I did. Yeah, Lauren said, you got to tell him that somebody told you, it's better if you don't go outside and flirt with all the guys. It's better if you come in the meeting and stay, this is okay. I had to learn these things, right? What was I talking about? Flirting. Oh, the sleazy flirting, yeah. So this guy, and I had to be around him quite a bit, and so what did I do? I went and whined to somebody about it. Well, she didn't feed into that. She didn't go, oh, you poor thing, oh, you've been abused or whatever. She said, well, did you talk to him about it? And I went, that never occurred to me, ever, to talk to the guy. It's unbelievable that I never thought of that. And so we talked about it and kind of came up with a plan on what I'd say. And I went up to him, and I was nervous as hell, because I was Miss Not Talker. And I went up to him, and I just said, hey, when you flirt with me like this, kind of makes me feel sleazy, and kind of gross. And he was like, oh, like it never occurred to, he was clueless. He didn't know. I feel really strong. He didn't know. I always thought that people should know, right? They should just know that their behavior is wrong. And he just didn't know. And so it occurred to me that, okay, when I communicate, we treat people, or we teach people how we want to be treated. And I don't have men do that to me anymore. Well, it could be I'm getting older and I got a lot of gray. Some guy in the meeting, David, was there the other day. I'm talking to him, and I realized he could be my son. And so I'm like, oh my God, how old am I getting? But anyways, we get a lot of gifts. And we were talking beforehand about hugging. Patrick, Chris, and I were talking about it, and some guy told me, I gave him a hug, and he said, you're so stiff, when I'm like, okay, I don't know how to do this, and he said, you're so stiff, and that stood out to me, and I didn't want to be that, right? And so I looked at, I took a look at that, and can I relax? And, as you work the steps, you're going to relax more, because you don't have this stuff hanging over you so much, because you've dealt with it, right? You've made amends to people, and I'll talk about the two people who I did not want to make amends to. I just didn't, and I didn't for about 7 years in the program. I waited, and I don't suggest that. But one was my stepfather. I hated the man. And actually, I wanted him dead. That's how much I hated him. I mean, we just had ever since right from the get-go, we butted heads. And when I called him and I made my amends to him, I wasn't a stepdaughter. I used to poke the bear, and I kind of said everything I used to do, and that was wrong. And I hope you can forgive me, And he said, and I feel like it was an amends in his own way, right? He said it was hard on all of us, it's okay. And it was. It was just a tough environment to grow up in. And that man danced with me at my wedding. And I still get emotional about it. And when I see him, which is rare, but when I see him, we'll give a hug and say, I love you. That's really weird, right? That wasn't happening before, and so this was new stuff. And then the boyfriend who had gotten out of prison for armed robbery, right? I hadn't made amends to him because I thought I was right and whatever. I didn't really know what I'd done wrong. I remember writing on this is true story. I wrote to my second sponsor, the one who could see through my BS, right? I wrote, I'm mad at so-and-so. And why? Because he's an a-hole, is what I wrote. And then my part, and he affected everything, of course. He affected everything. Now, I'm like 4 years sober at this point, mind you, so I'm still really clueless. And then my part was I was dishonest because I didn't tell him what an a-hole he was. That's what I wrote. It's like crazy. And she said, well, did you ever cheat on him? Oh, well, just once, but look at what he did, Yeah. And, did you ever hit him? Yeah, I hit him one night. I don't know why, but I hit him. And I listened, and it was like, oh my God, the truth. And the truth will truly set you free, because it talks about in the big book, we're not here to beat ourselves up. We want to recognize and be honest, and we want to be honest with God and another person about our faults, right? Everything we did. And I got to make amends to that man. And when I made amends to him, he's, I said, all that stuff, and that was wrong, and I hope you can forgive me. And he said, well, I was a real a-hole, is what he said. And that was, and that was okay. That was his way of making amends to me, I didn't need the whole spiel about everything he had done. But we were two really sick alcoholics trying to have some relationship that was impossible, right? Just was impossible. And if he came in this room today, I'd give him a big hug and welcome him here, and I hope he does make it to the room someday. Lauren wanted me to talk about my two boyfriends. I had two boyfriends at one time. I may have other times too. I don't know. I don't know if they were really even boyfriends. Anyone else relate to that? Like, I just had these people appear in my life. And yeah, I did have two boyfriends at one time. And one was the kind of guy you could bring home who was an alcoholic, but he looked good, he had a job, all that stuff. And the other guy was a really hot mess. And I used to describe him a lot, but will say this, he used to urinate on himself, and he smelled like urine. And, he had a dad who was homeless. I mean, it was just, these sick people, and neither of them were bad people. They were just sick, like us, right? I mean, we're sick human beings, and we need help. I didn't know how to live life, and now I do, and I'm still learning. And today, I have my husband. We're going to have 26 years sobriety on Wednesday, or sobriety, 26 years marriage, which is unbelievable. So those of us who were cheaters and liars and all that stuff, we don't have to be that anymore. We can change, and that's the gift here. That the whole saying of with God, everything is possible. What's the saying? With God, all things are possible. I do believe that. I truly do believe that. But we limit it, right? We think, well, this is just who I am, and we get stubborn. I like my edge or whatever. I like being pissed off. Anyone ever want to be pissed off and they just want to stay there a little bit? I like that sometimes. I just want to be pissed today. Well, what good does that do, right? I mean, we know the consequences of that, and I don't want it as much. Every year, I want it a little less. I want it a little less, a little less. The judgment, I want it less. I want it less. And we have the ability to become functioning people in society, right? We all have that, and we might need some help, though. I still have a weekly call with my sponsor. I call her, and sometimes I'll think, I got nothing going on, I'm perfect, and then and then all of a sudden I'm talking about something I had no idea I was going to talk about, and I needed to hear her side or her thoughts on it. And she's so sweet. This woman is so sweet. She, I said it the other day, David probably heard this too, but she will call me on my crap, and I'll be like, did she just call me on my crap? Like, it's so nice. But I don't need the drill it into me anymore. I hear it. Yeah, I heard that. That was so sweet. And so, I learned from her because she's a very spiritual person. She's doing this deal. She is at meetings. She's got a job in meetings. She's active in Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I have that person to look at, for the example here in AA. And I need that. And I still need that. And I sponsor women, and I'm very active. There isn't a day that goes by, if you got paid for AA service, right? That would be nice, huh? But you might not get all the benefits, because I feel like when we're giving it away for fun and for free, that's what I was taught. For fun and for free, Gabi. When you're giving it away for fun and for free, that's when we really get the gifts. When I give up my Law and Order that night or whatever. I don't even know if Law and Order's on anymore. But when I give up my TV show, although you can just put it on Netflix and watch it at 11 at night, now. But when I give up my time, that's the really giving back part, When I used to work with alcoholics a little bit, not, at a recovery home and other ways and stuff. But I was getting paid for that. It was a big difference. I was getting paid for it. There's something about the for fun and for free that I like, and the gifts. I will talk about love a little. I always talk about this. Dan, are you sick of my story? I'm so sorry. You've heard it 100 times, I think. But I will, love for me, it's an interesting thing. It's even evolved over these last few years. To really, truly, when we say we're going to embrace every alcoholic, right? Sometimes we place conditions even on that, I mean, how many people have come in the room and you're like, oh, they're here, or whatever, I think a lot of us have gone through that, and we place conditions. But that unconditional love, we are capable of it. Maybe not every day, all day, 100% of the time, but we are capable of it. And it's so freeing when you have someone at a meeting who irritates you to really look at yourself, and ask God to help you see the good. And I'll tell you, when you ask God to help you see the good will come. It'll be shown to you. And people that I used to get irritated with, I no longer get irritated with. And there'll be a new personality that'll come my way. I know it'll happen. And I'll be like, what? They're coming out of the woodwork, this personality. But we get to learn how to love people. And I really feel like God is pretty easy with all of us. I don't think, my God at least, my God doesn't demand a whole lot. It's like, just love them, forgive them, and, don't sit in fear. I mean, it's pretty simplistic stuff, right? But the love thing and passing it on to other people, I remember my sponsor, she had this, meeting at her house once a month, and she would, have all her sponsees there, and they're all saying, I'm 4 years sober, and they're all saying, oh, love you, hug, and all that. And I was like, oh my God, what do I don't like this. I was uncomfortable. I didn't really like women. I wasn't comfortable with women. And I'll tell you now, I'm totally comfortable. I love women. And it was just my judgment, right? And now I text my sponsees, oh, love you, heart, 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 big hugs. I mean, I'm that person, right? And so I felt like when I came here, I was detached. I felt like there was a point where I thought, I can't love another human being. And I really thought I was incapable. And then little but slowly, as my sponsor says, I learned how to love. I remember the first time I had a feeling for another human being, like a strong feeling, was a sponsee of mine who had, she had something really horrific, family situation, horrific happen. And I was angry for her, for her. I was angry and I felt for her. And I felt like the Grinch, it's like my heart grew 3 sizes that day. What is this feeling? And so if any of you feel that way, that you can't love, it's just all the crap that's blocking you from that, all the judgment, all the anger, all the stuff. And it will slowly go away if you keep doing this stuff. It really will. And I got the opportunity to, what time am I stopping? Is it 5 till, or am I stopping 5 till I stop? Okay. I'll just end with this. The gifts are many, and one thing I'm working on is my my relationship with my parents. It's a tough one for me. And my mom's coming on Sunday, and so I get the opportunity, right, to be kind and sweet. But one thing in early sobriety, I used to say that no one loved me. It was the big thing. No one loves me. Nobody ever said they loved me. No one ever. And wah, wah, wah. I was such a good victim. And somebody said, well, do you ever say it to your mom? And I said, well, no, she doesn't say it to me, so why would I say it to her? And someone suggested I start saying it to her. And so I got on the phone. I'm like, love you, Mom. It was really hard. I love you, Mom. And she goes, oh, okay. That was her response. And then I go, oh, and then I kept saying, I love you, Mom. She go, me too. And then after a while, she started saying it first. And what I realized is that she just didn't learn any of this. We really have a gift here. And hold on to it. Hold on to your seat here, because it's a good seat. So that's it. I'll shut up. Thank you.